Joining me today is British author David Icke, who has written 16 books and traveled to over 40 countries since 1990. His research exposes the Big Brother fascist dictatorship predicted by George Orwell in his book 1984, and charts the history of the Illuminati with its connections to unseen forces and other dimensions of reality that some call extraterrestrials. Icke refers to this as the reptilian agenda, and his book reveals how a hidden hand is behind world-changing events like the attacks of 9/11 and the manufactured wars in the Middle East as part of a mass mind manipulation technique he has dubbed problem, reaction, solution. So joining me today to talk about a very important topic that's happening right now in the world is called the swine flu. And David's going to be giving us his insights on what he thinks about this phenomena and update us on the New World Order agenda. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Hillary.
So where do we start?
Well, I've been talking about this for nearly 20 years, and it's not a forward projection anymore. It's not a sometime never. It's not a sometime over the rainbow this is coming. We're living it now, and we need to face it. We need to look it in the eye and ask ourselves what we're going to do about it, because if we don't, then even those that are informed are just going to be spectators, better informed spectators, yes, but spectators still in their own enslavement and the enslavement of their children. And we've reached a point where they are going to, and they, I mean the Bloodline Network, are going to throw at humanity everything they can, because they want a vast transition to a centralized global dictatorship, which will be centralized globally in terms of politics, in terms of medicine, in terms of finance. Everything you can think of will be centrally controlled. And what they've been doing over many, many decades is creating organizations with the word world in them. World Health Organization, World Bank, World Trade Organization. These are to centralize power so that a few people, in the end one, can make decisions that are affecting the lives of everyone on the planet. So what they've done with this World Health Organization, which is a total front for this conspiracy, is to give it the powers that if it announces a pandemic emergency, then its recommendations to something like 200 member countries are no longer recommendations. They are something that they have to do. They are compulsory. And what we're looking at with the swine flu is a classic problem reaction solution in which they create the virus to start with. They then put it out in the community. Once they've got a few people having it, they then go on a massive global media propaganda campaign to frighten the life out of the population and tell them how terrible it's all going to be. At the same time, we are told after this swine flu came to light in, I think it was April in Mexico, that the World Health Organization and these drug companies that are all connected, like Baxter International and Novartis, they were going as fast as they could to find a vaccine for this terrible danger to humanity. We now know that Baxter International applied for the patent for the vaccine to this strain of swine flu we're talking about on August the 28th, 2008. 7 months or so before it came to light in Mexico. And, when something bears no resemblance to common sense or to justice, then you always know that it's the agenda playing out. And we're having a situation now where people are getting this swine flu. The vast, overwhelming majority are having very mild symptoms, I know many people who've had it come and gone, no problem, a couple of days, 3 days, and it feels too good all over. And yet the response to it from the World Health Organization and its associated networks like the Centers for Disease Control, etc., in America, has been so ludicrously over the top and designed to cause mass panic that it's very clear that it's over the top because that's what it's meant to be. You can listen to these people, listen to these dark suits, and you can hear them telling you what's going to happen. I was listening to people over the last few months in France and Britain and other places, the dark suits and the medical spokesmen, and they were saying, well, it's not bad now, but we expect it to get really much worse in the autumn, in the fall, as you say in America. And that's what they plan, and it would not surprise me if they increase the strength of the virus to create more consequences and therefore more panic, because we have in this country and in the United States government, and increasingly elsewhere like France and others, where governments are buying enough of the vaccine, which is almost completely untested. They've got a few days of testing, and then that's it. They start putting it into people. And what they've said over in Europe here is that they'll continue the testing while they've started the program, because it's so urgent to get this vaccine into people. Again, it makes no sense. They are giving the drug companies immunity from prosecution for any effects that it has. And when you put it all together, they have created the problem, the virus. They have created the vaccine because they, for some reason, want that vaccine inside the mass overwhelming, in an ideal world for them, every single person on the planet. Because what you're going to be seeing happening is people being put under pressure who don't want the vaccine for themselves and their families, being put under pressure to have it because the herd immunity will not work unless we get like this massive percent of people having it. So by you not having the vaccine, you're putting all these other people and children under danger, and then what you then do is you get all the people that have had it. They're starting to hurl abuse at people who are refusing to have it, and if that doesn't work, well, they're planning compulsory vaccinations, and it's so important that people now, not sometime in the future when someone's knocking on the door and saying we've got your jab, they get together with people of like mind. They start to create communication and support networks so that there is unity in strength and unity in numbers and organization with people who are not going to have this vaccination or have their children have it, coming together as one united front. Because one thing's for sure, if we try to do this alone, then it's not going to work. We have to get together and we have to get organized, and we have to do it now, because they want access to every single human body on the planet for a very, very malevolent reason, and we need to get onto this, and now.
David, how is this similar to the African swine flu outbreak that happened in the 1970s? Are you seeing similar propaganda effects along the lines of what we're facing now?
Well, what they do, Hillary, is these people don't mess about. They're organized. They are extremely organized, and the rabbit hole goes very, very deep. In fact, I'm now understanding deeper levels of the rabbit hole that are giving me an increasing insight into just how organized they are. But they have, therefore, a target time for what they want to do in an area or to do with something, in this case, mass vaccination of the global population. They have a time when they want to play that card big time. But in the run-up to that, they have trial runs. What they're doing is using the same techniques, but in a smaller way, and now they're scanning the population. They're scanning how people react. They're scanning those people who don't react the way they want. And so how do we tweak this propaganda? How do we tweak this campaign so we get them to acquiesce. How much compulsion do we need? How much do we need to frighten them? What didn't work? What did work? And so in 76, in America, you had one single person, even if we believe the government's diagnosis. We had a guy at Fort Detrick, Maryland, was it somewhere like that, who had the swine flu. Then the government, again, always look at this, when it's over the top and it makes no sense, it's the agenda. They had this mass vaccination because one person died, and more people died from the vaccine and were seriously maimed because of the vaccine than ever were affected by the so-called swine flu virus. And if you go on the internet and you put into NetFind 1976 swine flu propaganda or words to that effect, Fort Dix in New Jersey, that's where the guy died. If you put those words in, you will get the propaganda on YouTube that they put out, and it was classically designed to terrify the population, to have people terrified that their children were going to die or they were going to die, and people lined up in large numbers, had the vaccine, and then the mayhem came to light with at least 25 people being killed and hundreds being seriously harmed by the vaccine. So they will have been scanning that whole thing, seeing what they need to change, and they're now ready to play what has been planned a very, very long time. We're in challenging times here. We need to stay calm and we need to stay focused because we're in the eye of the storm now. It's not in the future anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because they're talking about making it mandatory, and so I'm curious what your thoughts are on, when a country makes a vaccine mandatory, they keep your children out of school if they don't have it. I think Australia already passed a bill saying in October that they will have mandatory vaccines for the country. What do people do if they're forced to take this?
Well, that's why I said earlier that people need to start getting organized now. We do have a lot more people. I can tell you from experience, after, talking to next to nobody year after year and after year through the 90s, about this. There are far more people who are aware of what's going on. But we now need to move to the next stage, which is to not be a better informed spectator. Oh, I see what's going on. They're doing this now. Look, oh, that's why they're doing it. Yeah, fine. That's great to know that. But so we're not impacting on the situation if we just remain more informed spectators. This is why I say people need to start getting organized. It needs to become the focus of their lives. Because we have to sort this, because everything comes from that. The future of your children, grandchildren, yourself, on every level of being, every area of your life depends on us sorting this out now. Not just the swine flu, but this is a really, really important aspect of it at this time. But the whole deal of the global fascist dictatorship that's coming in by the day, by the hour now, because the more you centralize power, the more power you have to centralize even quicker, and that's why the whole rate of it's getting faster and faster and faster. And people need to get together with like-minded people, start organizing groups, start getting involved with other groups, and create a network of mutual support and mutual communication that is going to create a unified response, a unified refusal to go with this, and to get out there. This is just as important, and why I'm doing every interview I can at this time. It's to communicate to more and more people. I've got an article on my website which gives all the background to it, right at the top of my website. If people go there and just send it everywhere they can, because the more people who are informed of the background, the more people will refuse to have the vaccine, and the more difficult it's going to be for people to have it forced upon them. So let's get going, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get moving, because this is not a game. This is not an add-on to our lives. It's not something that is interesting when the end of the day when other things have been done. This is fundamental to the future of everybody who is experiencing this reality on this planet at this time. And, what the heck is in that vaccine? Only they know, but for sure it's not good for humanity, and they are desperate to get that stuff inside of us.
Do you think that that's why Obama is pushing so hard in the United States for health care reform now, before August, the end of August?
Exactly that. He's, as I've said so many times before since he came on the scene, this man is probably the most dangerous president in American history because of when he's come to power, which is now, come to frontman, the real powers behind him, and his ability, although it seems to be waning in the minds of increasing numbers of people, but at least an ability to sell a used car, to sell a policy, to sell an idea, and put that lot together. And, I've been saying this many times recently. We're seeing a presidential version of problem, reaction, solution. The Bush era was to create the problems, including the economic crash just before he finished his term in office. And Obama has come in to offer the solutions to those problems. And those solutions are the agenda for the centralization of power and the control of humanity in every area of our lives. And everything connects into everything else if you connect the dots. And you're absolutely right. I've said that, funnily enough, in the article that's on my website. This whole idea, I must have this health reform bill on my desk in August, is all part of it, because just after that, in the fall and in the early winter, before up to Christmas, that's when they want to start this mass vaccination. And these people are all connected to the same spider that is orchestrating the web on all these multi-levels. So that, the same spider that's responsible for the orchestration of this whole swine flu scam is the same spider that orchestrated the global economic crash. So we need to appreciate what we're dealing with here. This is not some little crisis that will pass. It's something that we have to face and sort out. Otherwise, it's certainly not going to pass.
And what about, do you believe that this vaccine is connected to the regular flu vaccine? Do you think perhaps there are certain ingredients in these vaccines? What is your theory about, because some people have said to me actually, well, it's no big deal. It's just a vaccine. We've had vaccines around for forever, and they really aren't open to the research, or they don't take the time to research. The doctors certainly, support it and have all kinds of research behind them. And I know that it's part of what you speak about with the bigger agenda. But for those people who perhaps aren't aware of the bigger agenda or don't let that awareness into their perception of reality, basically, I guess my question is there a longer history to this vaccine? What do you think the ingredients are? And how is it set up to affect us on a physical level?
Well, in the last question, we can only speculate because we don't know. But let's take a deep breath, take a step back, and look at this again. Before we go into any background or detail about vaccines, just look at the basics of what we're facing. We have a virus that is, first of all, hardly causing a problem for the overwhelming majority of people. And when people say, people are dying of this, people are dying of that, well, about 500,000 people die from regular flu every year worldwide. And what's happening now is people with regular flu are being diagnosed with swine flu, which is pushing the numbers up. We have a situation in Britain now, I don't know whether you know, Hillary, where they've said it's so widespread, swine flu, they say, that you don't go to your doctor anymore when you have kind of symptoms of flu or cold. You ring a call center, and these call centers are manned by people who've had literally a few hours tuition, who have no medical background whatsoever, and know nothing about swine flu or medicine in general. And you give them your symptoms, and they say to you, you got swine flu, and they add you to the numbers. We've had a case in the town where I live here, where someone rang one of these call centers because they weren't feeling very well. And they were told, you got swine flu, and told to take this Tamiflu stuff. That person is now in hospital with pneumonia, because she was told, if you have symptoms of flu or a cold, don't go to your doctor, call the call center. So the numbers of so-called swine flu victims is soaring, when enormous numbers of them have not had it. And this is all been orchestrated to increase the perceived numbers and to increase the panic among the population. So if we take a deep breath and take a step back, here we have a vaccine, or rather a virus, that is not causing a problem for the vast majority of people. And yet the response to it has been extraordinary. When has we last heard that everyone on the planet has to be vaccinated against something that is causing no problem for the vast majority of people? And I've talked to doctors, and I know other people have talked to doctors, and they're going, this is crazy. It's not a problem. What are they doing? And these are doctors. So when you see that, then there's clearly, if we've got a brain on active duty, there is clearly a reason why they are orchestrating this quite blatant nonsense, because they want access to our bodies. Now, they don't want that to put something in that's going to cause us to have benefits. They want to get access to what I call the body computer for very malevolent reasons. And then when you go into some of the greater detail, we have a fantastic defense mechanism to disease called the human immune system. When it's working properly and powerfully and most effectively, we do not get ill. Because like Norton antivirus on a computer, it seeks out threats like viruses to the body computer, and it sorts them out. It deals with them, and we get on with our lives. And often when we feel sick, or indeed almost every time we feel sick, that's the body's immune system, the way we're feeling, attacking the problem and sorting it out. Now what we're doing, and this has been going on for a long time, and it's getting worse all the time, is we are putting 25 vaccinations full of unbelievable rubbish and poison into children before the age of 2 years old, while their immune system, and their brain incidentally, is still forming. And we are bombarding it like pepper bombing Baghdad, symbolically, the immune system, while it's still forming. Now, this is creating problems right the way through those children's lives from then on, right through into adulthood and the rest of their life, because they have got a deformed immune system that has been destabilized and rewired before the age of 2. My son, Jamie, 16 now, 6'4", going on 6'5", strapping lad, never had a vaccination in his life, never had a childhood disease. His mates at school, who all had the vaccines, every single one, they got the diseases, not him, because he's got an immune system that is on fire, and not subjected to this bombardment of cocktails of poison and terrible rubbish that are in these vaccines. And what we've had is a war on the human immune system, and this swine flu vaccine is going to really push that on. Why? Because as people have been uncovering for many, many years, part of the agenda for this global fascist dictatorship is a massive cull of the human population. They want to reduce the population of the world dramatically. And the best way to do that is to destroy the immune system, because then people become open to all possible attacks. You see, quite rightly it is said that the so-called AIDS virus was created in a laboratory. Well, all these major threats to humanity are created in laboratories. It's what they do. And what is AIDS, Hillary? People don't die of AIDS. They die of AIDS-related diseases because AIDS destroys the immune system. It's another part of the attack on the human immune system, and I'm absolutely convinced that this swine flu vaccine is going to push that forward dramatically. Also, we're talking about getting everybody on the planet vaccinated. That's what they want. And I was told by a CIA scientist back in 1997 who talked to me because he wanted to get out what was really going on, and he couldn't because of the control he was under, various reasons, not also including a patch on his chest, the patches they call them, whereby they manipulate the bodies of these scientists to need a drug to survive, and they give it to them in the form of like a plastic patch on their chest. He opened his shirt and showed me. And these patches have to be replaced every 72 hours or they start to die. And if they don't do what they are told to do, if they don't use their scientific genius to serve this agenda, well, the patch is not replaced. And this guy had a family, had children. He didn't want to die. So this is what we're talking about here. This is why I say, you know, humanity is going to have to grow up real fast here, real fast, when as people realize what they're dealing with. And he told me, this is 1997, that microchips were already in the secret projects and the underground bases, easily small enough through what has become known now as nanotechnology, to be inserted into the population in vaccination programs. And I would strongly suggest that there is a major chance that included in this cocktail, in the swine flu vaccine, to get into every single person on the planet is nanotechnology microchips, and what an easy way to do it. Because you see, because of the compartmentalization, the people who put the vaccine in your arm have no clue what's in it. The people who put together the different ingredients have no clue what's in it. The only people that know what's in it are those that actually put the final finished product together, and they can be very few people. And once it's all up and running, it just runs itself. And so we're having people who will put the vaccine into other people who will themselves have the vaccine. You know, this is how easy it is when you've got compartmentalization of knowledge, so that no one except a few know what's going on. And you know, whether people, you know, accept what people like me say or not, just think about this. Are you prepared to take a chance that people like me are right, and that people like Jane Burgermeister, the Austrian journalist who's had has filed criminal charges with the FBI against a Rockefeller, a Rothschild, Baxter International, Novartis, and other groups, including George Soros, the billionaire financier, who's into this up to his neck, has been in my books for nearly 20 years, so I'm not surprised. Are you people going to take the chance that I'm wrong, that she's wrong, that other people are wrong, that have researched this and come up with the same information? Well, you know, tell your children you're willing to take a chance, because I sure as heck aren't.
Well, I think it's a really scary thing that they're targeting children and pregnant women first, and their timetable is October, and there's a lot of talk here in the States about it becoming mandatory, as I said before. And the fact that it's not even, the first batch hasn't even been approved by the FDA, and they're going forward. It's a really scary situation, actually. David, I'm curious to know if you think that the FEMA camps that have been rumored to be set up throughout the United States are associated with this.
Well, this has been organized for a very, very, very long time. These people don't make this up in years, even decades. This is planned a long time in advance because the rabbit hole goes, like I said earlier, very, very deep. And we're not just talking about humans being involved in this. So the orchestration is massive and very much projected a long way forward. The FEMA camps are there for those that they wish to remove, the people who are not accepting the system, the people who they want rid of in the mass cull. And it's not just FEMA camps. This has been organized on a very detailed level in terms of government organization and response. Just down the road from here, from where I live, is a council building, a local council building. And a friend of mine has taken out part of the space for his own healing center. It's not part of the council, but it's in the same building. And he's been watching builders coming in and out of this building, and they've talked to him, and they started to get very, very worried themselves and very bewildered because they said something strange is going on here. One set of builders comes in and they're given the plans for a certain amount of what they want doing. Then the plans have to be given back, and one set of builders goes away and another one comes in, and they do the next stage. So again, compartmentalization. No one knows what it's all really about. And now groups that are not builders, groups of men who are not builders are arriving in white unmarked vans to finish the job of putting this together. And the builders were told, you must have your part finished by mid-July. And it's clear, I climbed the steps of the fire escape and had a look inside. It's clearly a emergency response operation, null center. And it's all connected to this swine flu situation, which is why the builders were told, you must be out of here, work done by mid-July. And what the builders were also saying they picked up is that something like that was happening in every area of the country, something like that being created. And so the FEMA camps are the headline, and they should be, because what they plan to do there is horrific. But there is this network that's being put together with this same recurring timescale for what is now being said to be this mass campaign of vaccination. We must get together. We must start to organize together, support each other, get organization and communication, get this information out there. There is nothing more important in your life now than doing this at this time. Because, like I say, the more people who are informed, the more people will refuse, the bigger the problem they're going to have in getting this through. But if we sit around and we let fear freeze us, or we think we can do nothing about it, well, wait for the knock on the door then.
I'm curious if this is why we're headed into internet censorship. Obama's recently come up with a new problem, being the fact that we're targeted, by other countries in a form of terrorist, way of interfering into information. And, we've had this influx of fear come in with China supposedly attacking our computers. And again, Australia just announced the creation of a nationwide internet system, which will create jobs and help fuel the economy. And I'm curious if, also this is also connected on a bigger scale because, the information is out there for people to find on the internet, and it's freely available, and you can discern what feels right to you and what doesn't. But, once the government comes in and takes over internet control, then it's very easy to take off all the information that is available on this kind of stuff. Do you believe that that's also connected?
It's all connected. And you know, there's a few kind of simple rules of thumb here. They are trying to bring about this global fascist Orwellian dictatorship real fast. There's a reason why. I really quite understand it, but I've got a little idea which I'm working on. There is a reason they are desperate to get this in place fast. And so anything that comes out of the mouth of Barack Obama or any other major government leader, but particularly him, is the agenda. All of it. And he's got people behind him called Rahm Emanuel and David Axelrod, who ran his election campaign. One is the White House chief of staff. The other one's the senior White House advisor to Obama. These people are his puppeteers. You know, he sits on their hand, right, and they make his mouth move. You know, Obama is welded to the teleprompter. Well, the words on the teleprompter are overseen by Axelrod and Emanuel. So he's just a puppet. And so when he reads his speech and he reads his words, he is telling you what they've written for him. And I'll tell you how everything's connected. You're absolutely right, Hillary. Of course, if they want to do something, they want to stop people knowing what they're doing. And the Internet has become a wonderful tool to expose what's going on and inform people. So they want rid of that side of it. It's wonderful for them because it allows surveillance of people and all the rest of it. But there are some bad sides to it, and that's information circulating they don't want circulating. So yes, that's what that's about. But there's something else that's connected. Codex Alimentarius, which is an organization. It's a Latin word for food code, or Latin term for food code or food book. And this was started by in the 1960s by former Nazis that were involved with the chemical and pharmaceutical giant called IG Farben, that was the major organization behind Hitler and the Nazis. And one of them was called Fritz Tamir, who was jailed by the Nuremberg trials for I think it was 7 years, and he came out after 4 after the intervention of his friend Nelson Rockefeller, the multi-times mayor of New York, because the Rockefellers are connected into the Rothschilds, who are connected into all these people. They're the same bloodline, in fact, under different names. And Fritz Tamir and others started the Codex Alimentarius operation, and its goal is to reduce, and they're working on it all the time, is to reduce, first of all, dramatically the doses of food supplements and vitamins that you can take, and to put control of those food supplements and vitamins in the much less potent doses under the control of the pharmaceutical cartel, which they 100% control. And the reason for that is this. If you feed your body what it needs, then your immune system and your body in general, but particularly your immune system, will work as it should. And therefore, you will resist disease. They don't want that. They want diseased people. So at the same time that they're creating these vaccines and putting them out there and creating the viruses to create the problem to put the vaccines out there, they're also targeting in every area of our lives, alternative healing and stuff. This is why I said earlier, Hillary, there is no area of anyone's life who is listening to this interview now that is not going to be or is already affected by what is happening in terms of this multi-leveled agenda. And so I'm told that vitamin D is a very, very good defense against the flu, but you've got to take it in certain doses. And so if you can take that stuff out of circulation, at the same time you are attacking the immune system, you're making sure that you cannot provide your own boost for it, then you have a two-pronged attack, and that's what it's all about. So wherever you go with this, I doubt there's anything you could say to me Hillary, that I could not connect into this web. So vast is it, and so multifaceted is it in terms of its attack on the human mind, the human emotions, and the human body.
So that's one of the reasons why you think holistic medicine, as a holistic practitioner myself, it's so hard to break into more of a mainstream arena with that, because people just either, one, don't believe it, or two, they just don't have the money to afford it because health insurance won't cover it. But I've always been a strong advocate for, promoting holistic options and holistic health, so my research has been quite vast, and I agree with you 100%. I have to say it's quite interesting how it's really blocked on some big levels. So, David, at this point...
You know who brought in pharmaceutical medicine? There's a guy I know in California who's just produced a book about the background to the pharmaceutical industry. It was J.D. Rockefeller, who is the same bloodline as the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are behind the World Health Organization. They're behind the pharmaceutical cartel. They're behind Codex Alimentarius. They're behind the swine flu vaccine. They're behind the Centers for Disease Control. They're behind the American Medical Association and the British Medical Association, the professional bodies of the doctors and the medical profession, and they brought it in. And one of the ways that they work is if they want to control something, they introduce a system of licensing. So if you want to do and work in a certain area, then you must be licensed. To be licensed, you must conform to what you must conform to for you to be licensed. And what they're doing now is bringing in more and more licensing of alternative practitioners and alternative ways of healing. I've got a great friend just down the road from here. In fact, he's the guy, Mike Lambert, who has taken out the space for his healing center in this council building next to where all this stuff's going on. And he's constantly defending against attempts by government agencies to stop him doing what he's doing. And he's having fantastic success healing people that the pharmaceutical doctor cartel has said, nothing more we can do for you. When you see the horrific history of those that have found ways of curing and treating effectively things that people are dying and suffering from, and instead of supporting them and getting their methods of working and methods of healing out into the mainstream to help people, these government agencies that are controlled by the same family networks that control the pharmaceutical cartel attack, destroy, and jail those that are having success in curing people of things like cancer. Why would they do that if they had the best interests of people at heart? They do not. And these are the people, ladies and gentlemen, who are telling you you must have the swine flu vaccine. The same people who are doing this. The cure for cancer has been known for decades. The CIA scientist who I spoke of earlier, he told me how he had cancer, and they wanted to keep him alive so he could keep doing what he was doing for them, and they gave him a serum. The cancer disappeared almost immediately. They have the cure for cancer for themselves. Why do you think people like Father George Bush and Kissinger and David Rockefeller and all these people live these long lives? Why do people think the Queen Mother, the Windsors, are massively involved in this? One of the bloodlines. She lives to 102, wasn't it? You look at the present Queen. Elderly but still going strong. These people do not have the same treatment for their illness that the rest of the population are told to have by the same people. We need to wake up fast And more importantly, we need to grow up fast, okay? We need some courage here. We need people to open their eyes, open their minds, and not concede and freeze to fear. It can be frightening what we're talking about here, but I tell you, it's more frightening when the knock comes on the door than if we start to get involved now. And we can start to make it much more difficult for that knock on the door to happen. Come on. We don't have forever anymore. This is not a projection. This is now.
It's happening very quickly. In closing, David, we have about 10 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
What is the why, do you think? I mean, when somebody hears all of this information and sits with it, it's rather depressing and very, very negative. And I get told this all the time. Focus on the positive, and I understand it. I get it. But for those who are overwhelmed with this, what is the why?
I'll tell you something, Hillary. When I hear the focus on the positive people, I almost lose the will to live. What is more positive, for goodness sake, than getting involved to prevent our own enslavement? What is more empowering than to get involved to empower ourselves to prevent our own enslavement? I hear this, I hear this stuff, we must focus on the positive. Okay, so what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to focus on the positive. What does that mean? Is it positive to sit there in a cross-legged position, doing nothing, saying it'll all go away, and waiting for the knock to come on the door saying, I've got your vaccine, it's your turn? Oh, by the way, I've got a couple of heavies here in case you refuse. Is that focusing on the positive? You know what I'd say to those people? Grow up. Stop being a child and enter adulthood, because your denial, your escapism, because that's what it is in the end, It's escapism. It's I have to persuade myself that I don't have to do anything here that I really don't want to do. Well, you do. If you want to live in anything like a free world. And I'll say this to people who are focused on the positive. Tell your children and grandchildren that you focused on the positive when they realize that they are going to have to live in a world, and by then we'll be living in a world, unless if we put the brakes on fast, which makes today look like a free and open society. Because we've not reached the point of it yet. They want a global Orwellian state that would make Orwell wince. And tell your children and grandchildren who are going to have to live in that when you have gone that you focused on the positive. Grow up.
So it's about waking up. Don't you think it's about waking up to what's going on around you and looking into this and having the courage to face it and do something about it?
Yeah, we talk about spiritual, Hillary, right? Well, what is spiritual about looking the other way while this is going on? Being spiritual is to go above fear. And I love that when people say, "Oh, you mustn't focus on the fear. It's frightening." Well, hold on a second. I thought you said you were spiritual and you let go of fear. Well, if you've let go of fear, there's nothing to be frightened of, is there? We are consciousness. We are infinite consciousness. We are all that is, has been, and ever will be. What we're having at this time is a experience in a computer program called Planet Earth and humanity, right? That's what we're having. Now, whatever happens in the experience, we are still infinite consciousness, all that has been, is, and ever will be. But the question is, do you want to have an experience that's as deeply unpleasant as this one is going to be? Do you want your children and grandchildren to have that experience, right? Because that's the question. And if you really are conscious, if you really are in touch with your, quote, higher self, then looking at the other way and conceding your right to act as necessary to fear is not going to happen, is it? The only time it's going to happen that you're going to be consumed by fear or look the other way and convince yourself that there's nothing you should do, because it's all negative. The only time that you're going to be in that mode is if you are not conscious, if you are not in touch with your, quote, higher self, but if you are consumed by the body-mind, which sees everything in terms of denial, everything in terms of fear. Do you think infinite consciousness is going to look at the situation we're facing and say, it's negative, you must focus on the positive? No. It's going to say, I'm going to do what I know to be right. And what we know to be right in the face of a tyranny is to not concede ourselves to the tyranny. Peaceful, non-violent, non-cooperation, because this tyranny can only be imposed upon us if we concede ourselves to allow it. The people in full knowledge of what's going on and what they're doing, compared with the global population, is a handful. The global population, we are told, is about 7 billion people. And the 7 billion are the people who are subjected to this horror by the handful of people who in full knowledge are doing it. It can only happen with our acquiescence. There is not enough of them to do it without our acquiescence. And they have to get us to don uniforms and don dark suits to act as agents for the few to impose the will of the few upon the many. And those people in uniform and dark suits who are doing this, you look your children and grandchildren in the eye as well, and you tell them that you can justify what you're doing in relation to the world they're going to have to live in. You're helping to bring it in. What are you doing? We need to stop being in denial and start looking this in the eye. And then the billions can sort out the few who are seeking to impose a horror movie upon the rest of us. We can do it, but only if we come together and get out of denial and stop the excuses of it's negative, must focus on the positive. You know what's positive? You know what's positive thing to focus on? This tyranny not completing what it wants to complete. Tell me something more positive than that at this time.
Well, on that note, I think that's, David, you make some really strong points, and we have a few minutes left in the show, and I want to give some time for people to know where they can find more. You can find more information about David's book and his work at his website, davidicke.com. That's ICKE. And David, do you have any speaking engagements coming up?
Yeah, I'm in America. I'm in Washington State, a place called Bellingham on October the 4th. Speaking all day. All these events are all day, and that's about midway between Vancouver and Seattle. I'm in Santa Fe all day on October the 11th, and I'm in Phoenix all day on October 17th.
And people can find more information about that on your website?
Yeah, if they go to davidicke.com, it's all there.
Okay, great. Well, David, I want to say thank you so much for joining me.